All right, here we go. What I want to do is go over here and I want to model. I'm going to get a cylinder and I want to drag it up. So my cylinder is already 12 sided. That's how many sides your cylinder should have as well. I just want it round enough, but it doesn't have to be incredibly round. So what I want to do is right click on that and convert it to an editable poly. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab these two um, vertices right across from each other and right click and say connect. And I'm going to do the same on the bottom. So I'm going to grab these two, right click and say connect. Alright, so then I'm going to grab the back side of this. So I went to polygons and I'm grabbing the back side of this model, and what I'm going to do is right click and say extrude, and I'm just going to click and drag to the right, and then I can bring this out as much as I want. Now I want to get an edge. I'm going to click one of these edges. I want to click the button that says ring and then right click and say connect, and then I want to do it again. I'm going to click this edge, click ring, right click and say connect. Alright, so now what I want to do is grab this edge right here and say ring, and then control click on polygons and say delete. So and then I want to grab the back side of this and delete it as well. So I'll delete all of that information as well. So what I should be left with is a little circular piece like this. I'm using this border tool to click on the edge, and then I can just click where it says cap, and I'm going to do the same on this. So I'm going to say cap again, and then I'll say cap one last time, which will cap all this together. Then I'll click on polygon and I'll just drag this forward a little bit so it's fairly close, and I'll drag this one back to say here. So now I've got the base of the clasp. I just need I just need the flatter part that goes down around it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this with this, which is element, so it selects this whole back cube. I'm going to go to my scale tool and I'm just going to shift scale this, which is going to actually make a copy. I'm going to tell it OK, as it makes an element. So what I can do is I should have drug it the other way, but so now I have that. I'm going to go ahead and scale it this way. Doggone it. Alright, I'm just going to have to come in here and grab this and just move it forward, because I have no choice to do that, so I can grab this because of the way I scaled it. So what I need to do is scale this out so it's a little bit wider, and hit W and move it forward. I want it to about line up. I'm going to grab these two verts, or these four verts in the back, and just bring it out beyond. So I keep pushing the Windows key because I do. Let's grab the whole thing and just move it down like so. So what I want to do is grab these two edges, this edge and this edge. In the back, I didn't save it up here, but the back part of the old one has a rounded edge. So I'm going to right click and say chamfer. And I want to chamfer this quite a bit, maybe something about like that, and say OK. And I think I'm going to grab these four pieces and move them out, and I'm going to chamfer them again. So it's probably going to chamfer too far, so you're going to need to bring that back, but I'm looking for something about like that and say OK. So maybe I'll grab these four at the top and I'll just kind of scale them out a little bit, and maybe scale them this way a little bit. Not quite that much, about like that. And let's move them back. like that, and I'm just looking for something a little bit rounded. The last time it was a little bit less rounded than that, but we'll just do something like that. I think that's good. We could grab this whole thing and just kind of, there you go. I'm liking that better. And let's take the whole object and scale it down so it's like a thinner piece. And just going to drag it up till it hits the bottom of this thing. Alright, so now I want to flip this over. To flip it, you notice it has a pivot point over here. So if it didn't, I could say affect pivot point and move it over there. But I just want the pivot point so it's not in the center of the object. So when I flip it, I wind up with a piece that's like over here. You'll see what I mean in just a second. So if I go back to my modify menu, I've got this piece that I want to copy. If I click this, it's going to flip a piece and copy it over here. So that's good. I'm going to say OK. And then I'm just going to drag this back to about here. And I'm going to get all these verts and drag them back to about there. So something like that. Alright, so we're good so far. So all I need to do is grab this piece. I'm going to shift drag it up. And I'm going to scale it. So when I scale it, something about like that. And then I'm going to grab the back portion, this part right here, and I'm going to drag it back to about right there. So we're all good. What I want to do with this piece is I could select it, and I'm going to right click and say hide unselected, so I can just look at this piece. And I'm going to select both the top and the, whoops, I accidentally moved that, both the top and the bottom. I'm going to right click and say inset. So I'll inset this. I want to go pretty far, but I don't want these to cross. I don't want those two to cross. So let's just do about like that. And then I'm going to turn off the inset, and I'm going to click this thing that says bridge, which is going to bridge this across. So let's grab these, and I'm just going to move them forward a little bit. And I'm going to take these, and I want to spread them out so it's a little straighter, and smooth it back. Just make it a little more round like that. This is the part where I probably should go and find out what the thing looks like that it's kind of pressing up against, and you'll see what I mean in a second. So if I unhide everything, if I unhide all, right click, unhide all. If I click on this again, go to vertice again, you can see what I was talking about. Like if I want this to kind of come back and sit right against this and look like it was, you know, made to go around it, I probably want something about like that. So at this point, all we got to do is bevel some stuff out. So on this one, I'm just going to go for edges, and I'm going to go just for the top edges, like right here, and I want this edge and this edge. So we'll go around here and click these. I'm holding control, by the way, so that I can click all these edges, and I want this last one inside of here. So I can bevel all these at the same time. So I'm going to right click and say chamfer. I'm going to click the dialog box. So as this chamfers down, I could chamfer it quite a bit if I wanted to. If I want to make it the whole box, the quad thing, just remember you've got to take this to a number less than 1 so that it's round. So that makes that look a lot more finished. And I'm going to say OK. And then we're going to, I think what I'm going to do is click on this, and I'll just grab these two top. These should be connected, I guess they're not. Yeah, they're different pieces. Not bad. So once I select the polygon, I'm gonna control click the edge, right click and say chamfer again. And this time I'm just gonna make it a much smaller chamfer, something about like that, and say OK. And this should stay the same. So if I come over here to this one and click on it, and if I go back to chamfer, I guess it doesn't, so I'm going to have to just kind of eyeball it so I get it kind of close. Something like that. So once I have the clasp done, what I want to do is kind of put it all together. So I'm going to say attach and just attach all the pieces so it's one piece. And then I want to rotate it. So I've got my angle snap on, and I want to rotate this 90 degrees. And let's scale it down. Let's center it. So if I right click, I want to center it. Let's take it back and bring it up to the top of this thing. Whoops. I don't think I had the right axis. So we're going to want this to sit right about there, and we're going to want to have a couple of these pieces, this piece and this piece, actually sit higher. So like that. The whole thing is going to have to scale down. So if I grab the whole thing and scale it, that's a little better size wise. So I'm going to move it forward again, and this, of course, these pieces are going to have to, this one and this one, we'll just move them up too, so that it looks like it's actually clasping. And what you have to do with this is, because it has to sit on the ground, it has to sit, back here. Let's do something like that. And I think this is a little low, so I'll bring this up. So there we go, something like that. And then what you would actually do is just, I played around with the bend, and it's just easier to just go bend this by hand. I'm just going to bend this up a little bit, and I'll grab these next few verts and bend them up a little bit, and maybe grab these on the inside right here and just bring those up slightly, just so it looks like it's got kind of a little bit of a bend in it, so you can kind of get your finger underneath it. And that's pretty good. That's pretty much it. What we're going to do is break this. So I'm going to marquee drag across these, right click and say connect, and let's slide these a little closer together, something like that. Alright, so what I want to do is grab this edge and control backspace and control backspace, and then what I'm going to do is, we just hit F3 for a second, is take this point right here and this point right there and right click and connect them. So when I hit F3 again, you'll see what I did. I grabbed this point and grabbed that point and said connect, and then what I want to do is just kind of move this out a little bit. So basically this little lip on this lid it doesn't go right where the clasp is, so I'll move that back a little bit so it looks a little more legit, and there you go. So that's the clasp for the lunchbox. So, and that's probably as far as I want to take it. I probably wouldn't even do hinges because I don't really have source for it, and I just wouldn't. So, so there you go.